Hey kids, before I start this cast, I just want you to know that I leave everything raw. I don't consider myself to be a professional podcaster. I just say what I say, and sometimes I stutter and make whatever, and that's just how I am. I do everything raw. So with that said, I want you to hear this one out. Protesting foreign policy on Canadian soil accomplishes nothing. Do you honestly believe that by having a violent protest on Canadian soil, it is going to change anything in your country? Do you honestly think that the leaders of the country you left care what happens here in Toronto? Causing turmoil in our downtown core accomplishes absolutely nothing in your homeland. It does cause problems here in Toronto and other Canadian cities. Yesterday, a protest in Calgary turned violent. Additionally, it gives racists fuel for their racism and conspiracy theorists reasons to debunk and complain about you. It causes frustration and impatience with the citizens who live in the immediate area of the said protest. Most embassies are in the downtown core. Therefore, you're going to disrupt the downtown core. With the chaos from the massive construction going on downtown, the last thing people want or need is additional road blockages. This may sound like a lame minor complaint to you, but it's not. To many, it is enough to ignore the cause of the protest and hold resentment and frustration towards the protesters. We, Canadians, do not condone violence. Half the problems in our country are because we do not gather in mass and protest for change. The average Canadian protest is lucky to have 500 people. We would rather gather at Tim Hortons and use the free Wi-Fi to bitch on social media than to get off our arses and complain in front of politicians. There are ways of accomplishing intended goals without the violent protesting or creating chaos outside an embassy. The only ones seeing it on the evening news are the people living in the location of the protest. If lucky, it may be on the national news. Depends upon whether or not a journalist takes notice of it. It certainly will not be on the news in whatever country the protest is targeting, although I think you will find that it will be shared on the internet. So, what's the answer? What's the best course of action to persuade the Canadian government to speak up on whatever serious issues are unfolding in your foreign land? Petitions are Canada's answer to social defiance. Get 10,000 or whatever amount of signature on a well-written petition and our government has to acknowledge your plight. If they are in the legal and parliamentary position to justify their interference, they will gladly voice Canada's concern. If you are so concerned about the state of affairs in your homeland that you want to disrupt Canadians, then perhaps you should return to your homeland and your voice will be heard there. Find a way to voice your concerns in a political environment, not with tear gas and smoke grenades on our streets. 10,000 people marching on an embassy here may appear on the target of the country's news. Those leaders have no cause for concern because you are on the other side of the world. Your demonstration's hidden from your fellow people. Why would they care what a person thousands of miles away thinks? An influx of calls, emails, and letters to the appropriate minister stating the importance of having their protests recognized can accomplish far more. The calls, emails, and letters have to be recorded into fact. By doing so, you give our politicians fuel to warrant their intervention into another country's business. The unruly protest on public streets may briefly appear on the local or national news, but little ever becomes of it. No one can convince me that any protest outside the targeted country serves any purpose. Why would the opposed ruler care what the citizens who left their homeland and have to say in a foreign land? Taking the appropriate political approach would accomplish far more. It is extremely unlikely to bring cause for change. 99% of foreign governments take offense of outside interference. 10,000 names in the petition gives our government a reason to voice concern over another country's business, like I have already said. Does that give us the right to stick our noses where they may not belong? Occasionally, yes, and occasionally, no.